Racism on college campuses.
Nobody should be calling us niggers.
It's happening even at some of the USA's top universities. The best and the brightest can be racist. That's our cover story tonight on USA Today, the television show. Good evening. The University of Wisconsin today decided to investigate one of its fraternities for reportedly sponsoring a mock slave auction where pledges wore afro wigs and blackened their faces. Recently, there has been a number of racial incidents at big-name colleges across the USA, and one group of experts says 1 in 4 minority students is a victim of racial abuse. What do students have to say about racism on campus? They talked with correspondent Bill Sternoff.
There was a picture of Beethoven. It was colored in, the brown face. They had colored in an afro and put in red, bloodshot eyes. I guess it might have been about a week later, there was another flyer. A black fraternity had a poster put up, and across the poster, niggers was written across the poster. Nobody should be calling us niggers, you know.
The 2 racially offensive acts at Stanford University were inside an integrated student dorm, and the residents were stunned.
It was unbelievable. I mean, people were in shock. They didn't know whether to stand or sit or move, and people were crying on each other, and there's men and women alike, black and white, hugging.
2 white freshmen who lived in the integrated dorm confessed to the offensive Beethoven flyer, but they denied responsibility for the poster.
We are scared, upset, and angry, and worried.
And so are minority students on other elite USA college and university campuses. At DePauw University in Greencastle, Indiana, the cause for concern is a so-called ghetto party on Greek Row.
This guy named Jeff had the black shoe polish and stuff on his face and hands, and he had on a wig, and was dressed up kind of like a pimp. And when I came in, he asked me if I was offended, and of course I was offended.
6 fraternities and sororities are apologizing at DePauw, where there are 57 blacks on the 2,300 student campus. At Smith College in Massachusetts, notes with racial slurs have appeared.
In one instance, there was a woman who's received multiple anonymous notes that have said a variety of things.
There is a certain sense of wariness.
There are painful illustrations of campus racism from coast to coast.
Supposedly, we have the best and the brightest, but high SAT scores doesn't necessarily mean a high level of enlightenment or tolerance.
There's a creme de la creme of white students here who have never dealt with black people before, don't live with black people. The only black people, minority people they see are maids, janitors, gardeners.
It's easy for somebody who's not a minority, an ethnic minority, to say, I'm sick of hearing about racism, because they can turn it off. But black students can't turn off their blackness. We can't turn off the things that happen to us every single day.
Intolerance at our better universities. Joining us now to discuss this subject are Mary Maples Dunn, the president of Smith College, and Lewis Jackson, who is spokesman for the Black Student Union at Stanford University. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Lewis, why are these incidents happening at Stanford, which supposedly does have the best and the brightest of the students in this country?
I question whether it's the best and the brightest or not, but 2 reasons. One is the reactionary climate of the Reagan administration. Events like Howard Beach, Bernard Goetz, Tawana Brawley, these are kind of incidents that are allowed to exist and happen in the United States, and those ideas have kind of trickled down into the Stanford community. People think that it's okay to write nigger on posters and be able to get away with it. They know that they won't be punished.
Are you angered by it?
Oh, very angered. I think the entire black community is outraged that these things are allowed to exist and happen at our school and are not being adequately dealt with.
Mary Maples Dunn, you came up with a very radical plan at Smith that calls for 20% of the students, faculty, and staff to be minorities. Why such a radical plan, and how will it help?
I wouldn't describe it as radical. I would describe it as forward-looking and very useful. I think it will help because when you have a larger minority community, it establishes self-confidence for them and good role models for the majority. I believe that it's the best way to eliminate the kinds of verbal attack that we experience in universities today.
Do you believe that we are still going through this in the late 1980s?
Well, I think we, in the 60s, achieved a good deal in this country, then got a little complacent and took these issues off our priority list. Also, the students who are in college today have grown up in a time when they've actually not experienced the kinds of racism that we understood in the 50s, but instead a much more subtle kind in which they're made to feel marginal and in which they're the victims of verbal assault. Words hurt a great deal.
All right, thanks to both of you for joining us today, Lewis Jackson and Mary Maples Dunn. The 50s and 60s, of course, were the years of the protest song, the kind of song that's finding an audience again. Robin Young tells us more when USA Today continues.